So it's getting weird here. It's getting weird. Good morning, Minneapolis, aka Mill City, aka the better half of the Twin Cities, aka MPLS. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Toussaint Morrison, your host of Good Morning Minneapolis, which is part of On-Site Public Media, and we cannot make this happen without you, the members. So if you want to become a member and support programs like this and other programs that involve basically BIPOC filmmaker leadership, click the link below. And thank you so much for tuning in. Today in obvious news, if you have a trip planned for Florida, you might want to call it off because Florida's coming to Minnesota. Yes, you heard that right. The Minnesota State Fair will not require masks. It will not require vaccines. And they're just urging everybody to do the right thing, which is just a hair above what DeSantis has demanded. But you get it. Side note, are you a candidate that's running for Minneapolis City Council? If you are, we're running a series where we have people from your ward that you're running for interview you. And we got 2 of those interviews coming up. So if you're a city council candidate that wants to be interviewed, just let us know. onsitepublicmedia@gmail.com. We're trying to take the money out of politics, one day at a time. We're not going to do it all at once, but we're going to do it. Every single year, our state of Minnesota, and probably your state as well, wherever you're watching from, spends hundreds of millions of dollars on construction. That's millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars on roads, streets, highways, buildings, transit. You name it, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars on that every single year. And the state of Minnesota has been holding the goal that contractors and construction companies will hire a diverse workforce. And you guessed it, it hasn't been working out. According to the Star Tribune, several contractors over the past 2 years have failed to hire a single person of color or a single woman. This can only mean that these contractors have been hiring white men. White supremacy. So what the hell is the state of Minnesota doing about this, about these contractors that are failing to hire a single person of color or a single woman for their workforce? The state of Minnesota is doing nothing. They're doing nothing. They're not doing anything because the state of Minnesota has made it a goal to have a diverse workforce, not a standard, a goal. And there's a large difference there, right? It's like saying you're going to do something in spirit as opposed to saying that you're actually going to do it. Man, who else was somebody that said they were going to do something in spirit? I feel like it was pretty recent, and they were right here. I'd like to point out my favorite line in this entire Star Tribune article. Here it goes. Some in the industry call the state's goals unattainable because there still are not enough women and people of color entering and staying in the field. This actually fascinates me, this weird question of asking, hey, why aren't there more people in this profession that aren't white men? It's like asking, well, hey, why isn't anybody just going for the layup? The hoop is right there. However, the hoop is being protected by Dikembe Mutombo, and a lot of people are getting tired of their balls getting swatted away and then having a finger waving in their face telling them that they shouldn't come back here anymore. So construction sites, like many other white spaces, are hotbeds for racial harassment and sexual harassment. So you're gonna have to do more than just hire people of color and women. You're gonna have to sit down with Mitch, Mike, Brad, Tad, Chad, Todd, and Josh and tell them that their racist and sexist behavior are no longer acceptable here at the construction site. White spaces, like construction sites, are white for a reason. Let me tell you something. Kenwood is white for a reason. Linden Hills is white for a reason. Lyndhurst is white for a reason. The first black man that tried to move into the Kenwood neighborhood in Minneapolis, Minnesota, was met with hundreds of letters from white residents in Kenwood telling him not to live in Kenwood. And this was less than 50 years ago, okay? So for some of you that live in Kenwood, you might want to clean out the attic. There could be a letter up there. So before we start examining why aren't women and people of color trying to break into these industries that have been historically led, run, and employed by white men, maybe we can start asking the question, how do we open up the gates for these spaces to be led and occupied by women and people of color? Or furthermore, how do we start creating these spaces where they're not just designated for white men? Just over a month ago, July 6, 2021, Linnell Frazier, a black man, was killed by Minneapolis police officer Brian Cummings. Brian Cummings was engaged in a high-speed pursuit to what some say was going over 90 miles per hour when his police car struck and killed Linnell Frazier, who was proceeding to go through a green light. It's important to note that Linnell would have had no way of reacting to Brian Cummings' siren because Brian Cummings was going over 90 miles per hour, which is quadruple the speed limit of a residential area. This past Wednesday, Communities United Against Police Brutality and the Frazier family held an event for Linnell Frazier at 41st Avenue North and Lindale Avenue. You can go down there and pay your respects as well, or you can go to the GoFundMe link below that the family has put together to help out the family as well. And this isn't the first time the Minneapolis Police Department has done this. Friday, May 10th, 2013, just after Minneapolis police had killed a black man named Terrence Franklin in a basement, which the ballistics came out to say that it was execution-style shot in the back of the head, they had run into motorcyclist Ivan Romero. A Minneapolis police SUV going to the scene of Terrence Franklin after he had been killed, mind you, struck and killed Ivan Romero, a motorcyclist, in an intersection in Uptown. The chief at the time, Janae Harto, essentially exonerated the officer that ran into him. The officer said that he was rushing to bring water to the scene of the crime. That's kind of weird. Why would you do that? All in all, they essentially washed their hands of it. So, let's get surgical. Let's talk about the police pursuit model policy. Minnesota Rule 6700.2701. F. Factors influencing the termination of a pursuit. Rule 1. The conditions of the pursuit become too risky for the safe continuation of the pursuit. Well, if you think going quadruple the speed limit in a residential area isn't risky, then your name might be Brian Cummings, because it became risky because he killed somebody while he was pursuing somebody in a residential area. But have no fear, Jacob Fry is this guy. The Associated Press writes, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry said Thursday the city will review its police pursuit policy after a chase that ended with an officer hitting and killing an innocent motorist. Why do you need to review the policy? Why don't you review the police that broke the policy? Well, what? Two things I'd like to take away from this article. One, we're seeing another policy review arrive at the heels of police killing somebody yet again. It's like policy reviews only happen when they kill somebody. That's really morbid and effed up in a lot of ways, and I'm sure you can come up with some words as well to describe it. The second thing is that the Associated Press used the word innocent when referring to Linnell Frazier. Now, rarely do we ever see the word innocent associated with anybody that's been killed by the cops. And NPR doesn't really get kudos for this because they essentially copied and pasted this from the Associated Press. NPR hasn't really used the word innocent at all when referring to people that have been killed by the police. They didn't refer to Ivan Romero as innocent when he was killed by police on a high-speed pursuit in 2013. Matter of fact, NPR has essentially headlined quotes from the cops. They've done it here, 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 and here, which essentially makes all this police brutality and violence sound justified, which it's not. And if you wanted to create a new logo for NPR, maybe you could give them this. That'll do it for us here at Good Morning Minneapolis. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. If you want to become a member and support more shows like this, we have so much more coming up for you. And we have just opened up a space that will become a space for BIPOC filmmakers. And to keep the space going, we need members like you to support. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you in the next one. Our work is never, ever, 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 ever done.